Right, good evening. Welcome, everyone. Dr. Stacey Holweger here. I am so excited for this evening, and if you're watching the replay, whoo, you're going to want to watch this many times. I have Dr. Don Rehulst with me. He is a medical doctor, and I'm going to be sharing some information about him here in just a minute. Before we get started, though, I do want to make sure that you know if you are a guest tonight, welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. But please know that I am not a medical doctor. I have a PhD in integrative medicine and a PhD in functional medicine. Now, while Dr. Don Verhulst is a medical doctor, he's not your doctor. And so if you have any questions specifically in regards to your health, your medications, what's going on with you, please always check with your doctor or practitioner that's in charge of you. We will have some time at the end to answer some questions, but know that the information we are sharing this evening is for informational purposes. It is not intended to prevent, treat, cure, or diagnose anything that's going on with you. And if you do happen to mention any types of diseases that you're dealing with, please know that we won't be addressing those specifically. Talk to us in terms of systems in your body or organs in your body or symptoms you're experiencing. Our focus tonight is going to continue on with detoxification. And now Dr. Don has a lot of experience in this area. And so I want to go ahead and share with you a little bit about him. He is a teacher. He's an ordained minister and speaker. He hosted an internationally syndicated television program called Hope for Your Health for 10 years. He embraces the naturopathic philosophy of health and has dedicated his life to teaching the principles of preventative medicine, which you're going to hear a lot about here in just a minute. He received his undergraduate degree from the University of Michigan and his MD degree from Wayne State University School of Medicine. Dr. Don is the author of 5 books on health and wellness. You're going to be hearing about some of that this evening as well, too. He and his wife, Susan, live in Western Michigan and have 4 grown children. Now, Dr. Don also, during the past 30 plus years, has been the chief science officer, formulator, and health consultant for several different wellness companies, which is actually how I met Dr. Don a little over 15 years ago. He and his beautiful wife, Susan, were working for a company, and when I was a part of that company as a distributor, he was the man on stage teaching and training us, not only formulating the products, but teaching us and training us on them and how to use them and how to incorporate them in our daily lives for overall wellness. So, Dr. Don, welcome. Thank you so much for being here again. Now, of course, we have guests that they've never heard you or seen you before, even though I've had you on several times. We've done things together. Of course, we see each other all the time in person at events and different incentive trips. But I would love for you to take us back. You got your medical degree. Talk to us about that. And then what changed after that?
Yes. Well, thank you. First of all, I consider it a tremendous honor. I don't take it for granted to be here tonight with you, and even more to be with LifeWave. I believe it's an honor. I believe for both of us. Our passions have been united, our career choices, helping people get well. But I believe we've been promoted to this company. I really believe the integrity that this company brings to the industry as well as to the individual to help people is just unparalleled. And anything that I've done or been exposed to in 40 years as a medical doctor. And to tell you a little bit about who I am, in case you haven't heard of me before or seen me, I've been 40 years an MD, but with a little bit of a twist, I have never used pharmaceuticals. And that may sound a little unusual to you. It certainly was a lot more unusual 40 years ago when I started doing it than it is today. Today, now it's more of a mainstream approach to want to find natural alternatives and not try to poison yourself to health, which is what, unfortunately, traditional medicine does most of the time. Now, I am not here to make a wholesale condemnation or criticism of traditional allopathic medicine, which is what an MD practices. I think it's wonderful and a godsend that we have the emergency room and the intensive care ward. If God forbid you need to use them, if you break your leg or have a heart attack, don't come to me for natural alternatives, right? So it is very important that we make that distinguishment there because Sometimes people get in a ditch in one side or the other, and you shouldn't be in a ditch anywhere. There was a lady at my meeting last week that was on 21 pharmaceutical medications and didn't seem to think there was anything wrong with that. And I thought, well, okay, better to not be stressed out about it. But let me tell you, there's some things long term for your health that are not good about that. And when I say poisoning yourself to health, I say it a little bit tongue in cheek, but not really, because think about it. Pharmaceuticals, by definition, have to be non-natural substances, have to be foreign substances that your body recognizes as something that must be removed and actually add to the total toxic body load, which we're going to be talking about in depth tonight. So on a philosophical basis here, people just need to think it through and decide that when you can use natural alternatives, you surely should. So how do we decide when to do that? Well, first of all, I am not making a wholesale condemnation on pharmaceuticals. They are certainly poisons with a desirable side effect. Any physician, pharmacist, biochemist will tell you that that's exactly what they are. And you hope that the effect you're giving it for is greater than the side effects and certainly not as bad as the side effects. Although if you've watched any of the commercials, and I'm sure you have, you wonder about that. Maybe I'll just suffer with what I'm dealing with instead of chancing these side effects that are up to and including death. So there are times when I don't recommend getting people off of pharmaceuticals. My simple criterion is this: is your body deficient in what you're putting in it? If it is, then don't quit taking it. For bipolar mania, lithium is your body's deficient in lithium. I'm not so motivated to get people off lithium, although it has side effects for sure. If you're low in thyroid, you need to get some thyroid in your body. And for a time in a season until you can wake your thyroid up, which we can do, you need to take that. There are times when it is not prudent to try to get someone off a pharmaceutical, but most of the time, I will say that you need to do it. And here's a big difference between what you and I, Dr. Stacey, are recommending and doing every day and just having tremendous benefits with thousands of people with this patches versus traditional medicine, allopathic medicine, which my degree is the difference between covering symptoms and addressing the cause of the problem. I'm a big cause person. I want to know what's causing the problem. And that's one of the biggest problems with pharmaceuticals. It's not the side effects, and it's not the fact that they don't cover symptoms well. They cover symptoms super well. And it gives you the idea that you're correcting the problem, but you are not. You have symptoms for a reason. I can take your pain away with opioids, but to the degree where it takes your life away as well. But pain is a red flag. It's an indicator. It's telling you something is wrong. Even something as simple as high blood pressure. I used to think it's a disease, right? No, it's symptoms. It's telling you something's wrong. What's wrong? Well, it could be as simple as a magnesium deficiency. It could be hardening of the arteries, probably a combination of both. But considering that that's something to be treated chemically and artificially lowering the blood pressure and thinking with your fingers crossed, well, it's controlled. No, you're not addressing the cause at all. That's the different philosophical soapbox that I'm standing on. And of course, it's my opinion. And opinions are like noses. Everyone's got one. There's usually a couple holes in them, but I'm right about this. I've been doing this 40 years. It's too late to try to tell me there's a better way. I've seen it done both ways. I've done it both ways. And I'm telling you, there are natural alternatives in almost every situation, maybe 80, 90% of the situations. Mm-hmm. So with that balance, and I believe that is a balanced approach, I'll tell you how my approach to your health. When you come to me and speak with me about a health issue that you're having, and by the way, as you mentioned, we don't diagnose or treat sickness and disease. We don't make any medical claims on patching or anything else for that matter. We're here to educate you on how to support your body's ability to get and stay healthy, because it's the body that does the healing. No doctor does the healing. No pharmaceutical does the healing. No patch does the healing. The body does the work. But there are things we can do to facilitate that process. And there are things we can do to deter sideline that process too. And unfortunately, too many people are doing that. So that's the platform that you and I have, Dr. Stacey, and David Schmidt has allowed us to have that we take very seriously. So we care about your health. We can help you. So what do I think when someone starts sharing with me? I think this, something called the health equation that I made up. It's two areas that I know as we help you reach your goals in those two areas, you'll not only get healthy and stay healthy, prevent sickness and disease. In some cases, you can reverse the effects of sickness and disease and get well, even if you're in a very precarious and devastating situation. What are those two areas? I'm glad you asked. Number one is detoxification. That's what we're going to talk about in depth tonight. The other one is balancing your immune system.
Hmm.
And I used to say, strengthen that immune system because you want a strong immune system, right? Well, no, you want your immune system to be in balance because there are certain things that go wrong in your body where the immune system's overactive. Autoimmune. It's where your body's own immune system attacks your body. Things like asthma and allergies is a overactive immune system. It really is like the opposite of AIDS. AIDS, autoimmune deficiency syndrome. It means you don't have an immune system. Even a common cold can come along and kill you. The opposite of that is being overly active. So if you want to err in one of the directions, it's better to be that way. However, bringing balance is what will bring you to health. And the big word in health and physiology and science is called homeostasis. That's a word that directly describes the balance between anabolism, which is the building up of your body, which is constantly going on in your body, and catabolism, the constant tearing down, even in something as sturdy and strong as your bones, which, by the way, the bones are where the cells of the immune system are formed. Something that sturdy is constantly being broken down by osteoclasts and being rebuilt by osteoblasts. When your osteoclasts outdo your osteoblasts, you get something called thinning bones and osteoporosis. So how do we deal with that? There's lots of ways. First thing you got to do is supply the nutrients, keep the toxins out of your body. So that people as a whole person, first of all, not as the silo situation that we've done in modern medicine, where you've got a doctor for every part of your body and every subsegment and all those things. I'm not against super specialization, but when we fail to see the whole person, I think we really miss it. So detoxification and balancing the immune system. Let's talk about detoxification a minute. Detoxification to me means supporting the body in a number of areas. Number one, colon function. Wow, you think that's so important? It's as important as anything else. Maybe the liver is as important, which is going to be number two, but number one is colon function. The colon is a temporary storage tank for waste. And I say temporary because you can't keep things in there too long or they start causing problems. That's what causes colon cancer. If you want to get right down to it very simply, transit time is the time when you eat a food till it exits your body. It should be only 10 to 16 hours. If you want to know, eat some corn and watch. You can see. And there's something called the gastroenteric reflex. That's what a baby has. When you feed the baby, what do you have to do? Change the diaper. Does that mean you should have a bowel movement every time you have a meal? There's nothing wrong with that. It's physiologic. But my goal is to get people at least 1 to 2 bowel movements a day. The average person carries around 2 to 10 extra meals in their distended colon of toxins that should be moved through the body. And of course, you balance that function with a good high fiber diet and staying hydrated, which we'll talk more about, and also exercise. All right, so colon number one, liver support number two, probably co-equal with colon. Why? Because the liver, the second largest organ in your body after your skin, which is the largest, the liver is responsible for handling the toxins firsthand, And you face 5,000 toxins every day in the air you breathe, the water you drink, the food you eat. Every one of us. I don't care if you're in the middle of Montana, and some of you I know are, and that's a better place to be than downtown Chicago, toxic wise, but you're still facing those toxins. We are in this world, and there's stuff out there. The liver's job is either to recognize it and encapsulate it so it doesn't harm the body, put it in a form like you're putting it in the trash bag and getting ready to take it out to the curb, which may be the trash man might be the colon exit, or it might be the kidney exit, or whatever it is. So the liver has a huge detoxification function, so that I'm always thinking of colon function, liver function, and then kidneys. Kidneys are the blood filters. The life of the flesh is in the blood. You've got to have healthy blood. And when you do, things work much better. But blood has to be cleansed, and there are toxins in the blood. The kidney is the filter, literally a filter for your blood. It filters dirty blood and cleans it up, takes the toxins out, and makes urine. That's why you have to urinate to get rid of toxins. And staying hydrated is very important there. Staying on a lot of greens products and getting nutrients and other things. So we're talking about colon, liver, kidney, and this one might surprise you. Getting the fatty tissue, excess fatty tissue out, because fat is in part where toxins hide in your body. And fat is not a negative thing. You need fat. Your brain is mostly fat, the solid portion of your brain. You need fat for insulation in your body, insulating every nerve, or nerves won't function properly. That's really what MS is, a breakdown of that fatty insulator. So you need good fats, especially essential fatty acids from fish oil and nuts and seeds and things like that. However, bad excess fat, belly fat, I'll call it, which causes insulin resistance and blood sugar abnormalities and all the sequelae associated with that. But more importantly, the body uses it not only as an insulator for temperature, but an insulator from the effects of toxins. And some theories of weight loss, some experts in that area believe that people have problems losing weight because their body's holding fat to protect them from the toxins in their body. So detoxification can even be normalizing weight loss for weight maintenance, which is so important. If there's one thing you need to do is focus on getting to ideal weight. So when I look at a person, I think in terms of detoxification, balancing the immune system, and reaching our goals in that area using all the tools we know to do that. I've written 5 books, as you said, one that's available on Amazon right now called Do This and Live Healthy, 10 Simple Keys That Cure. And I'll give you the outline and crux of this book and all my books, because this is the theme and the way that I communicate it with people. It's 10 keys. These are not the only things that are important to your health, but they are 10 foundational issues. They're good health habits. And by the way, you don't pay the price for good health habits. That's an opportunity. You do pay the price for bad health habits. Ask anyone who didn't do these 10 keys consistently, and they'll wish that they would have, right? So no time like the present. It's never too late to heal your body naturally. How do you detoxify your body and balance your immune system? I'm glad you asked. Here's how you do it. Ready? I think you'll remember this. Learn to relax, get to bed on time, and do your exercise. Breathe fresh air when the sun's out there, and eat like this little rhyme: fruits and vegetables, whole grains, white if you choose meat. Drink what you're mostly made of. Water makes your health complete. Those are the 10 simple keys that cure. Now, can you live without doing any of those things? You absolutely can, but you'll never live as long and strong. They are all tools in your tool belt. Learn to relax. Stress is the #1 enemy of your immune system. You better learn how to cast your care, not take care, because stress increases cortisol, which makes you accumulate toxic belly fat, is hard on your immune system, your brain. You're just off kilter. Get to bed on time. Resting time is restoration time, right? You're never going to feel as good or live as long and strong without the proper amount of sleep. Exercise. Wow, of course. You don't have to, you get to. Let me just give you this encouragement for exercise. If you're a sedentary person, that means you don't do anything regularly, exercise, you might get your immune fluids to circulate in your body once in a 24-hour period. And you have 3 to 4 times as much immune fluid as you do blood. You got about 5 quarts of blood, but immune fluid is the fluid between cells, interstitial fluid, and the lymphatic fluid. But if you just walk 30 minutes, 5 times a week, consistent, brisk walk, you will move those same immune fluids 3 to 5 times through your body in one 24-hour period. How would you like to be 3 to 5 times healthier? Move it and improve it, right? If you don't move it, you'll lose it. That goes for muscle, and muscle is your friend in so many ways. So learn to relax, get to bed on time, do your exercise, breathe fresh air. Cancer and infections, all diseases hate oxygen. Everybody take a deep breath. Blow it out. You just fought sickness and disease. And then one that I really did not know how, I wrote this song 40 years ago, but I didn't know what I know today. And now I'm so glad I added number 5 here. Learn to relax, get to bed on time, and do your exercise, breathe fresh air. When the sun's out there, sunshine. Now, sunshine sets the circadian rhythm, the daily wake sleep cycle, which is intimately associated with immune function. It also creates vitamin D. When sunshine hits your skin, it makes vitamin D. This is the basis of photobiomodulation. Photo, light, bio, the body, modulation, changing the body with light, which is also the basis, as you know, of David Schmidt's invention of this life-changing non-transdermal patch that's about the size of a quarter here, and yet no chemicals are involved. Wearable light therapy. So I'm so glad I added sunshine there. And then the other 5, fruits and vegetables, whole grains, those are God-made foods, not man-made foods. And the enemy food of your health is sugar, for sure. And fried foods, I'd say, is probably number 2. And then white, if you choose meat, fish, chicken, and turkey, lower in fat and healthy, loaded with healthy fats. And then finally, drink what you're mostly made of. That number 10 key cannot be overemphasized. The basic way your body deals with toxins, which is our subject here tonight in part, is by solubilizing them and dissolving them and removing them from the body, either in the, like we said, with the liver doing its job on a cellular biochemical basis, molecular level, or the kidneys filtering that blood and clearing it out and making urine. You take that urine and get it out of your body, but you need water. If you're dehydrated, you can't filter your blood as well. Your liver won't work as well. Your colon function is absolutely tied to staying hydrated. The 3 things for normalizing colon function is increase the fiber in your diet, increase the amount of water you're drinking, which ounce of water for every 50% of the pounds that you are. Take your weight in pounds, divide in 2, and that number of ounces a day, and then exercising, moving. Those are the important things for that. So drink what you're mostly made of, water. A lot of people aren't sick. They're just thirsty. They're treating dehydration with, God forbid, pharmaceutical medications. It's crazy. We got to stop the insanity. So these are the 10 keys that cure. All of my books talk about this. It's what my career call is to go and share this. And I've been doing it for 40 plus years now. And then I found another tool for my toolbox. And that's what these patches are. They don't replace any of those 10 keys, but boy, is it an addition to your tool belt. So much that I will not miss wearing these patches for sure because of the life-changing difference in my life. So it's not, I get a kick out of it because sometimes I share with people about patches and they say, well, do I still have to take nutrition if I patch? Because they know I'm a big proponent of that. If you're not eating 2 to 3 fruit, 4 to 6 vegetable, and 5 to 11 whole grain servings 365 days a year from non-depleted soils, which don't exist, that haven't been sprayed with chemical pesticides and fertilizers, you're going to be deficient in one or more major nutrients. So absolutely, the most important nutrient for your health is the one that's missing. Good on a good balanced multiple vitamin, mineral, nutrient. I think any doctor worth their salt should recommend that for you. So that is foundational and absolutely important. However, adding the patches work better if you're hydrated than if you're dehydrated. But they'll work if you're dehydrated. In fact, if you're dehydrated, everything I'm going to say about it's more important to you. You better get patching. But I get a kick out of people saying, so if I start patching, do I still have to take nutrition? Well, do you still have to eat? Do you still have to breathe? Yes, of course you do. You don't have to, you get to, right? So we can't forget about the foundational things. And I thank you for allowing me to give my soapbox here, my platform for what I do. So that's what I've been doing for 40 years with tremendous success in almost every case. Certainly stay healthy. When I went to medical school, I went to find out how to get people healthy, healthcare, right? I thought. Instead, I learned disease care. And thank God for disease care. If you have a disease, you need disease care. But for a fraction of what we spend, in fact, little tidbit here, 50% of the healthcare dollar is spent in the last 3 to 6 months of life. Now, I'm not suggesting we should withhold healthcare from elderly people or people at the end of their life. However, for a fraction of that, we can teach people what I've already taught you on this Zoom about the 10 keys and change a person's whole life. It's just a better approach. So the patches are another tool. When I heard about it, I was the biggest skeptic of all time, I think. And so if people have the reaction like I did, I think they're in good company. Be patient with them. They don't know what they don't know. Susan, my wife, got all excited about patches because our friends were having such tremendous benefits with them. And it just sounded crazy to me. Although I knew the people and I was happy for them, I thought, well, it must be something else because a patch isn't going to do that. And I thought, Susan, look, I am a physician, a pastor. I'm not going to tell people to put a sticker on them and it'll heal them. So I said, I'm not going to tell them to put a sticker on them, it'll heal them. I was born at night, but not last night. And so I actually studied it because she said, well, there's clinical studies. Well, clinical studies, okay. Natural alternatives usually don't have clinical studies. If they do, they're done by the company most often. If they do 5 studies and one is favorable and the other one are not, you're never going to hear about the other ones. That's not good science. So I really looked into it to prove to her that there was no science. And I looked at the studies, and there were a lot of studies. And these studies were what I was used to reading in medical school. And as a physician, I taught biochemistry at the University of Michigan before I went to medical school. So I liked the details and the studies and the conclusions and things. These were double-blind, placebo-controlled. That's an absolute must on studies. Independent. Some of them were done at the number research facility in the whole world, University of Ireland. Wow, that was impressive to me. And some were peer reviewed. That means you do the study, make your conclusion, turn it to your colleagues and say, is this study valid? So when I found all these studies, dozens and dozens of studies, didn't read them all, but I read a lot of them. And I saw that they met all these criteria. And I thought, wow, Susan was right again. You guys should just listen to your wife. And she got excited because she saw some of the before and after pictures. And we heard about a friend with carpal tunnel syndrome that didn't have to wear their brace anymore, and blood pressure being balanced and other things like that. So then I wanted to know, as a physician, is it safe? And I found out it's non-transdermal. This non-transdermal patch, first of all, I didn't know what that meant. My experience with patching was a transdermal patch. Trans means through the skin, dermis, like an estrogen patch for hormone balancing, patch for smoker cessation, where the chemicals in the patch, you put it on your body and it goes in your body. Chemicals do the work. This is non-transdermal. Well, that sounded safe, and it is safe, but how does it work? There's no chemicals involved. Very important, though, I didn't have to ask people what pharmaceuticals they're on, what over-the-counter medications they're taking, vitamins, minerals, herbs, other natural modalities they're doing, because it's non-chemical. So that was a relief. Then how does it work? I'm glad you asked. Remember that photobiomodulation that I talked to you about earlier with the sun hitting your skin and making vitamin D? That's the physiologic process that this patch takes advantage of in a very specific and amplified way per each patch. And the difference is the wavelength of light. Here's how it works. These patches, you peel the back off and you put it on for 12 hours of activation. Then you take it off. It's basically spent, used up. You throw it away. There's enough left on it for a dog or cat. And wait 12 hours for rest and restoration. Then put the next patch on. So you get 100% benefit. It's not dangerous if you leave a patch on longer than that. But you don't want to do that consistently because you don't want your body getting used to it, because you want to get the 100% benefit for that patch. What the patch is doing is taking your heat energy, which is your 98.6, which we all have. Unless you're low thyroid, you might be 96.6, but there's still enough to hit the media in this patch, which is organic amino acids in a stereoisomer microcrystalline form. Say that 3 times fast. When that form is hit, when infrared hits it, heat energy, it makes a wavelength of light. But it doesn't make the whole spectrum like the sun, which could take a long time to do what it does. It's a very specific, narrow wavelength of light that, in the case of this patch, stimulates rejuvenating cells in your body. You may not know this, but you are born with billions, trillions, actually, of your 100 trillion cells, trillions of rejuvenating cells. And they simply are cells that can become anything your body needs. If you need help in the cardiovascular area, they muscle cell or an endothelial cell lining the blood vessels. If you need help in the skin, they can become a skin cell. They can become a liver cell, a kidney cell, whatever, a brain cell. Whatever you need, these master cells in your body are always there. But as you get older, you lose number and activity and efficiency of these cells. And here's the average person: by the time you're 35, you've lost 50% of the activity and number of these master rejuvenating cells. Wow, that was remarkable. I didn't think it would happen that quickly, but it does. By the time you're 65, you've lost up to 90% of that activity. What's the net effect of that? You're just not healing as quickly as you were in the past. You're not able to resist sickness and disease as much as you did. It's part of the reason, maybe the biggest reason, we age. Like you share, I love your example, and I've shared it all over the world. When a 10-year-old falls off a bike, they don't break a bone. They hop back up. They don't have chronic low back problems. They don't have the diseases of aging, the degenerative diseases, the major killers: cancer, heart disease, diabetes, arthritis. Why? Because they're loaded with these rejuvenating cells, remastering, recreating all the time. Your 100 trillion cells being remade and reduplicated, all the cells and tissues of your body. They do it at different rates. You get new skin every 28 to 45 days. The old skin falls off and makes house dust. You make 40 pounds during your life. No matter how clean you think you're keeping your house, dust shows up. That's you. From dust we came, and dust will return. You get a new liver every 6 weeks. You get new cells lining your stomach every 3 to 5 days because of the high acid content there. In 1 year's time, 98% of all the tissues and organs in your body are renewed and restored. You know what that means? For everyone listening to me tonight, there's going to be a new you 1 year from tonight. And I promise you, you will not be at the same level of health that you're at right now. If you ignore everything I've said, these 10 keys: learn to relax, get to bed on time, fruits and vegetables, whole grain. If you ignore those, your health will deteriorate and you will be at a lesser level of health. But if you do these things, you can literally be healthier. And if you add this tool, patching, it can literally reverse age your body. One of these studies, I love this study, every 6 weeks you wear this master rejuvenating cell patch. And I wear it on C7 because that's where the clinical studies were, but you can wear it anywhere. It'll work anywhere on the body. But every 6 weeks you wear it, reverse ages your cardiovascular system by 8 weeks. Wow. When I first heard that, I thought, if that was true, everybody in the world would be clamoring to get this. Well, they are. They just maybe don't know it yet. But there are thousands of medical doctors like me, DOs, chiropractors, massage therapists, naturopaths, which is what I do. I'm an MD who does naturopathic healthcare. and just people, everyday people. I'm so thankful David Schmidt chose to bring this to the people and not to the pharmaceutical companies and the hospitals. So you'd need a prescription and it would cost 10 times as much. Aren't you thankful for that? I really am thankful for that. So that was my journey. I figured out it was safe, certainly, no chemicals involved. It was effective. I've got the clinical studies. Folks, these patches aren't on trial. If this is the very first time you've heard about patching, and I think that's wonderful, you're going to want to share it with everybody you know. Certainly, if you know somebody's sick or somebody that doesn't want to get sick or somebody that wants to reverse age, you want to share it with them. But if you've never heard about this before, it's real. You can look it up. You can go, and that's what I do. After this, I would go to startx39now.com. There's several other sites you can go to where all the clinical studies are there. There's a 20-year global patent on this technology. We're about maybe 4 years in. They don't give those away without rock solid science. So this technology, these patches are safe. They are certainly effective. They're not on trial. What's on trial is whether you're going to use them consistently. And that is a very key factor. They'll work if you don't use them consistently. It just takes a lot longer. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to wait on my health. I want to get and stay healthy and reverse aging, slow it down as much as I can. So it's safe and it's effective. What do you expect when you put this patch on? I have now personally patched hundreds of people, Susan and I, and of course, we've heard the testimonies of thousands, and those are available to you as well. And you can get back with the person who shared this with you tonight and say, I want to see a testimony on whatever you might be interested in. We can find them for you. But it's all there. It's safe. It's effective. And what happens when you put it on? 80% of people, it takes 3 to 6 weeks. And I love to underpromise and overdeliver. I just love people to be pleased and go, wow, that was something. Because sometimes we tell the message of the one patch or 1 week or 1 month wonders, and we give people the wrong impression. This is not a short-term fix. You didn't get in the health situation you're in 8 weeks. You got in it in 8 years or 80 years in some cases. And it's unrealistic to think that a week of doing something, you say, well, this isn't working. The average person, 80% of people, 3 to 6 weeks will notice something significant. But that means 10% are quicker than that, wonderful. But 10% take longer than that, up to 1 month for every decade of life. For me, for example, I'm 68 years old, chronologically. But biologically, I'm much younger than that because we can measure that very, very accurately, really. And we've actually done studies where we've measured people's biological age, put them on patches, remeasures, and seen the difference that it makes. These patches work. They're safe and they are certainly effective. So what, in the hundreds of people I've patched consistently, I'd say 2 things that everybody experiences: sleeping better and energy, for sure. Also less pain and inflammation, positive skin changes, better healing there, wound healing improvement, GI changes, clearer, more focused thinking. Those are the common things I hear, but for sure, energy and better sleeping. And let me just quickly tell you why sleeping better is so important. As we age, our ability to convert short-term memory into long-term can be impaired, and it's directly related to our ability to sleep a good night's sleep. Every day for 24 hours, you load up your daily 1 day's worth of short-term memory in the hippocampus, in the lower level of your brain. And then at night, if and only if you get to REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, which is 90 minutes plus of consistent deep sleep, you start to upload these memories into the cerebral cortex where they are stored as long-term memory. That's why people, when they get into my age group, the mature age, can tell you something that happened 60 or 70 or 80 years ago in detail, but they might not be able to remember what happened 5 minutes ago because of that process. So it's very important to get a good night's sleep, not just because you feel better and think better and all those look better even, but energy and sleeping better. That's what people experience most of the time. But my favorite testimony on patching is our friend Bob Campbell, who carried the mail for 30 years and retired and did it the old days where you didn't have a mail truck. He walked, but he had chronic knee and foot problems. I think he was 73 when he started patching. He had 5 operations, or 7 on his knee and 4 on his feet, and excruciating neuropathy, pain. Couldn't put pressure on his feet in the morning. If a sheet touched his foot at night, it was like sharp pain, horrible. Starts patching. First month, pain doesn't change. A little disappointed in that, but he gets tremendous energy. Second month, sleeps much better. Gets off a prostate medication that he'd been on for 12 years that he couldn't urinate without taking, and tried to get off it a few times. That's impressive. Still sleeping great, energy, but no change in the pain. Third month, no change. Fourth month, no change in the pain, but he had had some cancerous, I think 5 cancerous tumors removed from the skin on his head, skin cancers, that had come back before he started patching, knew he had to get them removed. In the 4th month, they fell off. Wow. Very happy, no change in the pain. 5th month, 6th month, even the 7th month, no change, but he kept patching. Middle of the 7th month, he gets up one day, pain completely gone. That was almost 3 years ago now. No pain. Why? Because this is smart technology. It goes after the first most important thing first, then goes to the next thing, then goes to the next thing. And that is why you and I have an agreement about our philosophy on this rejuvenating cell patch, that we start people with what's called the dynamic duo. 2 patches, not just this one. This one will do it. It'll do everything the other patches will do, but it can take longer. We also recommend the anti-inflammatory patch, which I wear an inch below my belly button because that's where the clinical studies were done, but that will work anywhere. In fact, I really like patching the problem with that one. You got pain here, you got inflammation there, you got an issue with this tissue or organ, put that patch right on that area. And it's important to hold inflammation down, because inflammation is a cause or promoter of every kind of disease, even the big ones. But everything works better in your body when you keep inflammation in check. But it's particularly important when you're waking up these rejuvenating cells, because, as I said, it's smart technology and it's working where the action is. And where the action is where the inflammation is. So when you wake up these cells of yours, these master rejuvenating cells, they're going to go where the inflammation is. And initially, some or all of them may be consumed by the inflammation. So it's going to take longer if you don't keep inflammation down. That's where we both believe you need the dynamic duo, the master rejuvenating patch and the anti-inflammatory patch. I call them the dynamic duo. Now, I start everybody with that. And I'm at the point now, though, because I'm so excited about we're finally getting to where we were going to talk about. We did talk some about detoxification, but I almost am ready to convert from the dynamic duo to the triumphant trio and add glutathione, because glutathione is our master antioxidant, master anti-ager in our body, and it's made by your liver. It puts a quiver in your liver, glutathione. This is the detox patch. Does it replace exercising and drinking a lot of water and taking in good nutrients and eating right? No, but it sure is enhancing that process, because you make glutathione, but you don't make as much as you did when you were younger. And it's part of the reason toxins build up in your body. And remember that health equation: detoxification, keeping toxins from getting in and removing the ones that are there, is not as efficient as you get older, along with balancing the immune system. So glutathione is an antioxidant. What does that mean? That means it fights the free radical damage that we know causes aging in your body. Free radicals are little chemicals that go around like the Tasmanian devil, ripping up tissues, and all they're doing is looking for an electron. If you give them an electron, he stops spinning and wrecking your body. Where do they get that electron? I'm glad you asked. Vitamin C and vitamin E are probably the 2 most important ones. That's why they're necessary in your diet, essential nutrients, vitamin E, vitamin C, because your body can't make those. Your dog and cat, by the way, makes them. I don't know why God did that, but he did it. You don't make vitamin C and vitamin E. You've got to get it in your food. When a vitamin C molecule gives its electron to slow down that free radical aging, it's done. It's cooked. It's no good. It's useless unless glutathione is present. This glutathione made by your own body gives back that electron, literally rejuvenating the vitamin C, vitamin E, and the other antioxidant nutrients that come in your diet. So, wow, that's worth the price of admission, having this patch working in your body. It's such an important nutrient that people that are fighting abnormal growth, for example, traditional physicians like myself are doing IVs with this in it. But let me tell you what I've learned about this, Dr. Stacey, and this was game changing for me as a formulator. I've been formulating products for 40 years. When you formulate with glutathione, you use 500 milligrams, and that's the dose. You can use it 3 times a day. But the half-life of glutathione, people don't know this really much, many people don't, is only about 7.5 minutes. That means when I give you those 500, 7.5 minutes later, there's only 250 left in your body. 7.5 minutes after that, 15 minutes in, you've got only 122.5. Within an hour, it's gone. That's the best I can do nutritionally. It's still good. It's worth doing. It's hundreds of dollars to get an IV of this stuff. It's still worth doing. It's good. But the patch that David Schmidt made, same process, non-transdermal, photobiomodulation, signals your own liver to make more glutathione like when you were younger. Nothing new. These patches aren't doing anything new in your body. They're just enhancing a process that's gotten old and worn out. Wow, rejuvenating patches. That's what they are. But this one rejuvenates your ability to handle toxins. That's what glutathione does. That's why I say it puts a quiver in your liver, and you need a quiver in your liver. And that's why I'm thinking about changing the dynamic duo to the triumphant trio. What do you think, Dr. Stacey?
I think that sounds fantastic. You know, Dr. Don, wow. Okay, so you took a breath. We've got 10 minutes left. I know one person, you were 10 minutes in and she said, I've got 4 pages of notes.
You don't have to pull information out of me, do you?
That's so valuable for everyone. But I love the triumphant trio. I love that. You know, we always tell people X39 Eon, you've got to bring some of that inflammation down. We need to help get your nervous system into balance. People are so stressed all the time. Their cells are screaming on the inside, right? And so using the X39 to elevate and activate those cells that are responsible for repair and regeneration. But glutathione is sitting over here like, hey, call on me. Call on me. Like, I'm the big dog here. I really have what you really, really need. And so let's talk a little bit about glutathione as far as if you've never done any type of detoxification in your life, you've drove that car for 68 years and you've never changed the oil, the tires, the brakes, nothing. What if you put on a glutathione?
That is the one patch, and I don't usually share this with people right out of the gate because it's not with everybody by any means. It might only be one person out of 10 or 20, but where they get what's called a detoxification reaction, or I call it a healing crisis. It's really a healing opportunity.
Yeah.
Whenever I give a natural alternative to people, whether it be nutritional or a patch, and they tell me, oh, that made me sick, that always alerts me that they're changing something in their body, pulling something out. They think it's making them sick. No, it's like spring cleaning. You ever notice when you clean things out, things look whole lot dirtier? You say, well, I'll just leave it the way it is and nobody will know. You start cleaning it out and it's a mess. You stir things up. That's what's happening when you put this patch on. So don't be surprised. In fact, be pleased and happy. Now, there's several ways you can deal with this healing opportunity called the detoxification reaction. One simple way is to skip a day. That's what I usually start people with, and then usually that's all it takes. Sometimes you have to skip a day every other day for a week at the most. You could also wear it 6 hours a day instead of 12. For me, it's just easier. Skip a day, but I wouldn't even skip a day. If it was me and I had that, I'm going to press through. I want to get this stuff out. I want to do this spring cleaning consistently and constantly. It won't hurt you. The symptoms are telling you something's getting removed out of your body. So that's what's going on. And that is the one patch where it could happen with other patches, but I've seen it most often with this, and it is not very common, but it's worth knowing. It's something to know because it is true.
Well, and if you've never done a detox, if you've never cleaned out your colon or your liver, or you've never done a water fast. I know Dr. Stan talked a lot about that last week. If you've never done anything at all, your body may go, whoa, 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 we got a lot of sludge in here, right? And so, for me on day one, I slept on 6 patches and went about my way. I had just met David. He had on 13, and we didn't even have 13 patches at the time. I'm thinking, well, he's still alive.
Wow.
So I'm sure I'm going to be good on 6, and I did, and I've done that plus add to it since from day one. And I think glutathione is so powerful and so important in every single person's arsenal. And like you said, yeah, you may have to go a little slower with it, but I always say better out than in. Get it out.
Yes, and it probably don't have to go slower with it. You can just push through. But you remind me of something. When I first started sharing these patches with people, I didn't know what I know today, and I'm not as passionate as I am today. And a lot of people in my age category would say, well, I got to decide if I can afford this. And that was the third thing. Effective, is it affordable? It's not the $10, $20, $30,000 that traditional stem cell therapy can cost out there, and you got to go out of the country. This is $5 a day experience, 3 for the rejuvenating cell patch and 2 for the anti-inflammatory patch. Wow, what a bargain. I mean, your Earth suit, which is the only right you have to stay here, you can stay here as long as this thing lasts. When this thing wears out, you don't cease to exist. You're an eternal being. You're going to last forever, but you're out of this planet. So I want to live long and strong and to fill my destiny and touch the most people with the health and message that God has given you and I. And you definitely want to do that. And it's $5 a day. Wow, what a bargain. But I understand people say, well, I'm on fixed income. Even $5 a day can be significant. So here's what I tell people. And it just reminded me of this when you talked about fasting. I said, listen, here's what I recommend. You come to me and ask me for my advice. Here's my advice. If you think you can't afford it, for the next 60 days, skip 1 or 2 meals a day. No matter how skinny you are, you won't die. It's called fasting. It's a healing modality. Everything will work better. You'll work better, and you'll feel better and look better and everything else. And it won't cost you a dime. People are spending more than $5 a day on a cup of coffee now. So I don't really take that excuse anymore, or I try to reorient people to think logically. So it's safe, it's effective, it's affordable. But let's say one more thing so I don't forget about this glutathione detox patch. There are 5 areas in the world called the blue zones where people consistently live over 100 years, but strong and healthy. They're not dying with diapers on, they're dying with their boots on, climbing mountains and doing things and healthy. Those 5 areas, although they're diverse in their lifestyles and other things they do, they have some of the highest glutathione levels of anywhere in the world. Wow. That's enough of a reason right there to get the glutathione patch on. And I mentioned the half-life is only 7.5 minutes. So taking it orally or even IV, you can't get the levels that high. This patch increases your own glutathione level made by your body for up to 300% for 24 hours. So if you're wearing it 12 hours on and off, which I know you are properly, you're getting a consistent 3 times higher level. You can't achieve that giving orally or IV or any other way. This is a phenomenal product that's almost got me talking about the triumphant trio as mandatory, not just the dynamic duo, Dr. Sstacey.
I love that. I love that. So we've got about 6 minutes. Let's touch a tiny bit on carnosine as far as the detoxification process. We know carnosine's great for the brain. It's great for the heart, the organs like the pancreas, the liver, the kidneys. But what is its role in detoxification as an antioxidant?
Yes, it is a protective. Every antioxidant is protective in your body. And what that means is it's keeping the body from the free radical damage that causes aging, which is an overall thing we talked about here. But in the case of carnosine, it can literally help your liver stay younger and not damaged so it can do its job better. It will help your colon stay younger so it can do its job better, help your kidneys stay younger so they can detoxify that blood and make urine better, and even help you support the process. Excess fat in your body causes inflammation and causes free radical damage. You have a lot more free radical damage in your body if you have excess fat. So even supporting that fat that you have, not causing these aging changes, and carnosine can help in all of those areas because it's tissue support for every organ system in your body.
I love carnosine. I think carnosine is, I call some of these patches sleeper patches, meaning I think it's not as commonly known or used. And I feel like it's just right up there as powerful, right behind glutathione. That's an every single day patch.
Yeah, it is. And you know what? You remind me when I think of a sleeper patch, not in the sense of like Silent Night, which is specifically for melatonin for a good night's sleep, but as patch that's surprising. Eon, also the anti-inflammatory patch, will help balance your parasympathetic nervous system. You have two parts of the autonomic or automatic nervous system in your body, the fight or flight, get up and go, adrenaline, where you get up to get you out of bed and get you to exercising and doing all the physical things you need to do. Then that needs to calm down. And at night, the parasympathetic needs to take over, which is the resting restoration. We found that this patch supports that resting restoration. So if people are struggling with anxiety, mood issues, things like that, I ask them, is it worse at night or worse during the day? Whatever it is, that's when I have them wearing their Eon patch. So in that way, that patch is kind of a sleeper, sneaks up on you and does more than you even bargained for. It still keeps the inflammation down. But boy, if someone's struggling with that, and it used to be called, as you know, and still is, the happy patch. And I tried depression and I didn't like it. It's much better when I'm happy.
I tried it and I didn't like it. I love that. I love that. And you know, Eon is one of those patches that you, like you said, it's so powerful. But know that that was the number one selling patch we had until X39 came on the market because of all the things that it did to help people. So many things. That was the number one. That's why it's the number two still to this day next to X39. And you're right up there with glutathione, X49 coming in, you know, right there next. Couple patches that are the most popular, you know, when you look at sales and reoccurring sales on a monthly basis. That everything comes in a month's supply. And so using these consistency, let's talk about that real quick before we wrap up here. The time, because people want to know how long before I can stop. How long do I have to quit, keep using this in order to get XYZ result?
Yes.
Give us a time frame.
Designed to be used 1 month for every decade of life. For me at 68, I've lived in 6 decades. I'm in my 7th. That means I may have to wear these patches up to 7 months to notice a significant effect. However, I would not stop patching then. It's up to you. It's a financial decision. I certainly wouldn't stop with the X39, and I wouldn't stop with the Eon either, for sure. I personally got some of my best results in months 9 to 12, which I'm not 90 to 120, but I had a brain balancing where my neurotransmitters literally in my brain were balanced. I struggled with clinical depression for 29 years, like clockwork. It's horrible. I pushed through and made it, functioned, but it's bad. If you've not experienced that, you don't know what I'm talking about. You may have seen people and you say, come on, you know, get over it, get happy. It's not like that, folks. It's horrible. And just not having to experience that, which since I've been patching, well, it took 9 to 12 months for that. And then I have an even more dramatic effect on the 23rd month I was patching. So don't quit patching with the basic, for sure, the X39 rejuvenating patch. And I'd keep inflammation down too, because you want to live long and strong. It's basically a financial consideration, but that's how I recommend using them. And I think the older that you are, maybe the longer you'd have to use the patches. Can you quit patching after a month for every decade of life? Yes. You won't lose the gains you've got, but you go back to aging the way you did. I'm not interested in that. I'm 68 years old, and I honestly, literally am doing things I haven't done since I'm 35 or 40. I'm chasing Susan around. She goes, come on, we're not teenagers. I said, well, I feel like I am. Let's go.
I love that. I love that. And that's a big component that people don't realize, because I think sometimes people are so wrapped up in their diagnosis and their symptoms that they forget about that reverse aging component. As these peptides compound, as your cells come back into balance, we start to see age reversal. We can
Yes.
see that early on with some changes, but the longer you patch, the younger you become, literally, physically on the inside, right?
Well
Look
said.
at
I
your
have nothing
skin.
to add to that.
Look at your
Beautiful.
skin. I mean, you look amazing. No one can believe you're almost 70, right? That is because you've been patching for a couple years now. You have turned back your clock.
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
Sign me up for that. And I know you said a financial condition. Maybe some people don't keep patching for financial reasons. Price of a cup of coffee a day. Your health, you're either going to pay now or you're going to pay later,
Right.
right? You're going to pay for preventative or you're going to pay for disease care down the road.
Exactly.
Huge, huge difference. You have a choice. And so what do I need to do to make this a priority? And again, if you start small with a few dollars a day, then you do that. Share the patches with people. If you share these patches with people, just like you and I are, Dr. Don, you're going to make enough money to pay for your patches every
Yeah,
single month. It's not going to
absolutely.
even be an expense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why I tell people we have a tremendous referral program where fairly easily you can share with enough people and get your patches for free. And then eventually get paid for sharing with others. And the more people you help, the more you get paid. Wow.
Yeah, checks in a direct correlation to the lives changed, the value that we add to people. I can't think of anything more rewarding on this planet than be able to impact someone's health. If you don't have your health, you don't have anything else. You can have all the money in the world, but if you don't have your health, it doesn't matter. You're not taking it with you. So
Amen,
this
sister.
is the way to be able to help people improve their quality of life. If it's pain reduction, better quality sleep, more mental faculties back online, it's just so valuable for such a nominal price to be able to help people. It's just so powerful to see and experience. So thank you, Dr. Don, for all of your wisdom and education and information tonight on everything. I am so grateful for you and appreciative for everything you've said tonight and how you pour into our LifeWave community.
Well, thank you for teaching me about this. And thank God for David Schmidt. And let's continue to pray for him. He is definitely called of God to bring this. And my goal now is to get him into multi-billion homes that to experience this. It's available to everybody. So I'm so thankful that we've had our journeys together. And I think we're at the beginning of our true assignment here on this planet. Let's go. The rest of our life is the best of our life.
Exactly. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a fantastic evening. And Dr. Don, next week we have Dr. Don Warren, who you have personally enrolled on as well, talking about detoxification in his practice. So thank you for introducing him to LifeWave, and we'll look forward to hearing his wealth of information next week. Thank you all. Have a fantastic evening.